Good morning. I'm Malcolm Graham Wood, and welcome to my Core Finance CEO interview. Today, my guest is Katherine Roe, the CEO of Wentworth Resources. Morning, Katherine, and welcome to my CEO interview.
Very good morning, Malcy, and thank you for welcoming me this morning.
It's a pleasure. Let's get up and running with giving the viewers an overview of Wentworth and some detail about your natural gas asset in Tanzania, if you would.
Yeah, thank you very much. And just to set us off, as you say, Malcy, an overview of Wentworth is a reminder for anyone who doesn't know. We are a natural gas producer in Tanzania. We have a producing asset, and we own 32% of that asset alongside our partner and operator, Moral and Prom. Our other partner in the concession is TPDC, Tanzania Petroleum Development Corporation, which is the government. So we are fully aligned with the government in our concession. We have 5 producing wells in the Malcy Bay block. And we have continuously produced gas since 2007 from the Malcy Bay gas fields, but material volumes have really only been produced since 2015, when we started producing into the new natural gas infrastructure pipeline, which was constructed in 2014, commissioned in 2015. And that pipeline runs all the way down from our concession, which is in the southern part of Tanzania, all the way up to Dar es Salaam, which is the commercial capital of the country. So we've been producing material volumes now for 5 years into that new infrastructure. We have 2P reserves of 95 BCF, which are valued at $119 million with NPV 10 after tax. And we have a long-term gas sales agreement with TPDC. And as I mentioned, TPDC are also a partner in our concession, but also the off-taker of our gas with a fixed gas price and a long-term contract. So in short summary, we are a long-term partner for Tanzania in their ambition to provide low-cost, reliable power for the development of the country, and to increase the domestic supply of that power that will really underpin the growth and the socio-economic development of the country that we see coming here in Tanzania.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. If I could just dig down into one of the areas there. Production varies a little bit seasonally, but my memory serves me correctly. You've got guidance of about 65 to 75,000 SCF a day. And current production, means that you're going to hit that target pretty nicely, I guess. And you've got a capacity of 100. So what's the form on current production and guidance and the capacity that you've talked about?
Yeah, absolutely, Malcy. So we've seen pretty stable production this year, even despite the challenging backdrop of COVID and a lot of economies seeing significant drops in their energy demand. We haven't seen that in Tanzania. That said, we did revise our guidance a little bit, Malcy, from that 65 to 75 range that you just mentioned, and we tweaked that down to 60 to 70 million with our interim results in September. But we're very comfortable in that range for the remainder of this year. You mentioned seasonality. We do experience some seasonality typically in Q1, Q2 with the rainy season. And what that does is we see that the hydropower, the dams are working at full capacity with the hydropower, and that typically displaces a little bit of the natural gas demand, which is why we see a little bit of a drop in that part of the year. But as I say, fundamentally, volumes have stayed very stable. That slight revision down on the guidance, it was a result of some lower industry demand that we've seen as a result of COVID, really driven by the hospitality and tourism sector, which plays a huge part in Tanzania's economy, and as you can imagine, has been pretty quiet this year with the pandemic. But we've been incredibly impressed with how robust and resilient volumes have been. We will be looking to update the market on our exit rate, which has significantly strengthened in the last few months of this year as we leave 2020. And as typically we always do in January, we will be issuing our guidance for 2021.
Excellent. Within Tanzania, historically, it's had, certainly to a certain extent, sort of mixed views from the marketplace, but more recently, things have been going a lot better for the country, and your relationships are first rate. How do you see your relationships with them in a political and a business basis going forwards?
Yeah, I think that's right, Malcy. I would entirely agree with that. There has been some negative perceptions about Tanzania and doing business in Tanzania. It's a very safe and stable jurisdiction. We very much enjoy doing business there, and I think we can demonstrate very easily, just in our financials alone, how robust and strong business we have from operating in Tanzania. But it is a jurisdiction that requires patience and relationships. And again, what is great about Wentworth is we have a 10-year track record. We have gone from being an explorer to a developer to a producer, now looking at when and how we reinvest back into Malcy Bay and back into the country again outside of Malcy Bay as well. I guess we can talk about growth later. But it works really well, and a large reason for that success, that we believe the Wentworth success, is largely driven by those relationships with our stakeholders in country. And as I mentioned earlier, the fact that we have the government not only as our off-taker, but also as a partner in our license, really helps to strengthen that relationship.
Excellent. And you've always talked about sustainability as a key part of your modus operandi. How does that drive the way that you the way that you do business in Tanzania?
Yeah, well, I really appreciate that question, actually, Malcy, because for us, and I know it's had much sharper focus, this topic of debate this year, but for us, it's absolutely fundamental in who we are and what we do and how we operate. We are a Tanzania business, and we look at creating a positive impact for the country in a direct way and an indirect way. So, direct, we are responsible. We have local content. Most of Wentworth, what makes Wentworth special is our team in Tanzania. We have 11 people in our office in Dar es Salaam, and only one is not a Tanzania national. Health and safety is a priority. Safeguarding our people and our operations has been absolutely paramount, particularly this year, particularly relevant with what we've seen with COVID. So that is our direct impact that for me creates meaningful sustainability. But then there's also indirect impact. We are one of only 2 domestic gas producers in Tanzania. So, we're a pretty key partner in trying to increase those energy access rates, whilst doing it in an aligned fashion with UN's Sustainable Development Goals, which is really important to us. So for us, it's obviously about generating a business that's capable of generating returns to our shareholders, but in a very sustainable way that transforms the lives of people in Tanzania. Genuinely, we are improving the well-being and the livelihoods of people in Tanzania, not just from a safety aspect, but from an education aspect, from pastoral well-being. We really feel that we are making a significant impact at the macro level in the country as well. Yeah.
So your commitment to the sort of current ESG trend has been solid, and I know you've been doing a whole lot of work about it for publications which you're going to produce in due course.
Yeah, absolutely. We've taken it very seriously. I think it will become more and more relevant in the capital markets, particularly access to capital from our institutional investors here in London will demand more disclosure, more transparency, and deeper deeper dives into these issues. It was never enough for me and for Wentworth to do the bare minimum. So we've really started producing our ESG strategy from scratch. And as you mentioned, Malcy, we will be producing our inaugural ESG report in the new year, which will sit alongside our 2020 annual report. And it's an evolving topic. We will develop and evolve as all of these issues become more and more pertinent in our minds. But it's very important to us.
Excellent. You mentioned earlier on your contracts. I'd like to dig a bit deeper into that one. You've got fixed price contracts. What are your gas prices fixed against, and for how long?
Yeah, so again, great place to be, given this difficult year with commodity price volatility. So, thanks for reiterating that, Malcy. We do have fixed gas price contracts which are long term, and by that I mean it's the length of our concession. So our gas sales agreement is the length of our PSA, which is to 2031. And we have a fixed gas price until that point. It's currently $3.24 per MMBTU, but that does increase with inflation on an annual basis, and that typically happens in January. So we'll be seeing a slightly higher gas price in January, and that is the fixed price, and we sell to TPDC at that price.
But the key thing is, it doesn't, like some gas companies, go up and down with the spot rates or anything like that. You have a rate which is linked to much more long-term basis. So you wouldn't have had the problems that some gas companies have had this year with the terrible prices in April and May, but a bounce in October.
No, absolutely. No, we haven't had any of those concerns.
Good stuff. I'd like to move over to money. You're in a very strong position. You've had strong revenues and EBITDA recently. You've got cash of some 17 million on the balance sheet with no debt, which you've paid off. You pay a dividend. The company yields about 8% on the market, as far as I'm aware. So the question about that is, where do you see the investor returns from Wentworth on the longer term?
Yeah, and all of that is exactly right, Malcy. We've been working, as I said earlier, for 10 years in this concession, and we've transitioned from exploration, development, and into production, and then stranded gas, and then into production, into the main pipeline. So we've been on the Wentworth journey, and it's so great for us to be in this position of strength right now, where we, as you rightly identify, made our last term loan repayment in January of this year, which was predominantly a development loan. So we've done a large majority of the work into the field, spent the capex, and now being able to reap the rewards of that. So it's only this year, really, with the receivable position obviously improving to the point where we've been current with payments most of this year, which again is a fantastic place to be. So we really now have the position of strength to look to the future and how we grow this business. And obviously one of the things that we did last year is install our dividend policy to return some of our capital to shareholders. Many of our shareholders have been with us for that journey I've just described, have been incredibly supportive, incredibly loyal. And whilst we I really believe this business is capable of delivering capital growth, it's very nice to be able to return some capital to shareholders whilst we're looking at the best ways to deliver that capital growth, and also just demonstrate our confidence in Tanzania and the asset. And it almost goes back to a point you raised earlier, Malcy, about some potential perceived negative perspectives of Tanzania. Actually, we feel very confident about what we're doing.
Lovely. I mean, thank you for also, I was going to ask about the receivables, so that's good. Given your strong position, I'm going to just ask to sort of go one stage further on the growth front. You've got potential organic growth that you mentioned within the within Malcy Bay, but you've also got potential people who've talked for quite a long time about potential M&A activity from Wentworth. Are there any plans for growth that you can share with us at the moment?
Well, I think what I will say, Malcy, which relates to the organic and inorganic. What are we trying to achieve here? Is how I look at it often when I'm asked this question. And I hope that I've been able to communicate that we are committed to Tanzania. We feel very aligned with what the government's trying to achieve. We've got the in-country stakeholder relationships which allow us to be able to execute on what we'd like to achieve, we believe, which is being a leading domestic gas producer in the country. And we can achieve that by increasing our current production in Malcy Bay, certainly up to the 130 million cubic feet per day level that's in our contract, and then beyond, we hope. But also elsewhere in country. How can we expand outside of Malcy Bay and help to deliver additional power generation, natural gas particularly, because that's what we're good at. And also we believe that natural gas is and will continue to be a very important part of the energy mix for this country. So it's organic, increasing in production volumes, and it's looking at opportunities to add to our existing asset to expand our foothold as a domestic gas producer in country. I hope that's a way of answering your question.
I get it, and certainly appreciate it. And almost linked to that, I mean, you mentioned your shareholder base a few minutes ago. I mean, more than most companies, I know that you have a very strong and supportive shareholder base. They take a significant interest in what you do and what you might be doing in terms of what you've just been talking about. They obviously appreciate the fact that you're now paying a dividend and so on. How does this reflect on the way you run the business, Katherine?
Yeah, it has a huge influence, Malcy, in some respects, because we are here to run this business for shareholders ultimately. We are, again, I believe that there are lots of differentiating factors about Wentworth in our small cap E&P peer group. And I believe that another key differentiating factor is the strength of our shareholder register and those institutions that have been with us for a very long time and have really ridden that been with us on that journey. Yeah. And we are close to them. Fidelity, AXA, Vitol, Sustainable Capital, our largest holders. We do discuss strategy. We involve them in our thought processes, and we do believe that they will be there to support us for the right kind of growth.
Yeah, it must be really good to have that sort of backing from, and such an interesting mix as well that you mentioned there. So we're nearly running out of time, Katherine, I'm afraid, but I never let anyone get away without the sort of final question. It's answering all the questions you've already answered from me, which I'm really grateful for. But I always ask about where you think, as CEO of this business, where you would like to see Wentworth Resources in the next 12 to 18 months.
Well, that's you saved the difficult question for last. None of us have a crystal ball, and obviously none of us knew what 2020 would look like. But I can say that we have a very strong business that's performed better than anyone's expectations against a global crisis and global pandemic. And we couldn't be better positioned, well capitalized, debt-free, limited work program. Again, we'll give guidance on this, but I don't expect a heavy work program going into next year. We are well respected and well placed within country. We get a lot of support from our in-country team to continue those relationships that we have. We have a dividend. Again, we're one of only 3 AIM companies in the E&P sector paying a dividend with a yield that's meaningful and sustainable. And when we look at growth, we will not compromise on the position that we've established at Wentworth over these years, and we will not compromise on the dividend policy that we've put in place. So I think we'll see at minimum, we will see this business increasing production, increasing volumes, continuing to be a very firm leader in the domestic gas market in Tanzania. And there's only upside to come on top of that as well, in my view.
Well, that's absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much. Katherine, thank you very much for being my guest on today's show.
Thank you, Malcy.
It's a great pleasure.
Yeah,
and thank you very much indeed. My name's been Malcolm Graham. I've been hosting our CEO interview today, where my guest has been Katherine Roe, the CEO of Wentworth Resources. Thank you very much for partaking in this. Thank you to Katherine, and thank you very much for watching. I look forward to seeing you all again soon. Bye now.